Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone.
A Michigan man won't be winning any Father of the Year awards, but definitely is facing criminal charges after he allegedly forced his adolescent daughter to help him commit a home invasion last week, then ditched her when they were caught in the act. The whole thing began on the evening of April 29th, when the man in question, 29-year-old Andre Stefan Curtis Broadenax, allegedly stole a car in the city of Dearborn Heights. According to police, he then used the vehicle to drive himself and his 11-year-old daughter to an address in neighboring Detroit, where he forced the young girl to take part in a home invasion. However, after the pair forced their way into the property on the 600 block of Marquette Drive, they were apparently caught by the son of the 75-year-old homeowner. When they were, Broadenax reportedly took off immediately on foot, leaving his daughter behind to take the blame for the whole thing. While Broadenax was caught shortly afterwards and police quickly pieced together what had actually happened, that's not really the point. Aside from the illegality of the whole thing, the bigger issue is that Broadenax put his young daughter in an incredibly dangerous situation. As one resident in the area stated during an interview with reporters, quote, "Right now you could have just lost your life and your child's, so it's really sad." Following his arrest, Broadenax was charged with first-degree home invasion, second-degree home invasion, larceny in a building, receiving and concealing a motor vehicle, inducing a minor to commit felony, and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. He currently remains in custody.
Officials in Texas are calling for stricter conditions to be imposed on the bail system after a murder suspect went on the run this week the same day he was scheduled to begin his trial. The case began 2 years ago, back in May of 2023, when 35-year-old Aaron Martinez was found shot dead in his truck, which was parked outside his home in the city of Forney. Aaron, who was a horse trainer, had moved his family to the area to follow his dreams of opening up his own ranch. However, according to loved ones, shortly after arriving there, Aaron began to have problems with his neighbor, Trevor McEwen. McEwen reportedly began intimidating Aaron and told him that Hispanic people were not welcome in the community. On the same night that Aaron was found murdered, police reportedly spotted McEwen driving away from his house after the crime. They followed him. However, McEwen refused to exit his vehicle, leading to a standoff. The situation finally ended with McEwen's arrest once the SWAT team was called in. Afterwards, he allegedly admitted to fatally shooting Aaron, though claimed it was self-defense. Despite being charged with capital murder, McEwen was released on bond ahead of his trial. He was arrested again in September of 2024 after he reportedly posted pictures on social media of Aaron and some of his family members and threatened to shoot them. Though his bond was increased to $2 million after this, he managed to post the amount and was released a second time. That brings us to this week. At around 5:30 a.m. on May 5th, the same day that McEwen's trial was scheduled to begin, he allegedly cut off his electronic monitoring device and disappeared. Police have now launched a search for him. However, so far that effort has been unsuccessful. The whole situation has led to calls from some members of law enforcement, including Kaufman County District Attorney Early Wiley, who say changes need to be made to the state's bail system. Wiley has come out in support of a reform bill proposed by Governor Greg Abbott, which in Wiley's words would, quote, empower judges to deny bond to individuals charged with violent offenses, including capital murder. The district attorney went on to say in a statement, quote, whether the bond is $2 million, $5 million, or more, if a defendant can post it, they will walk free. At the time of this recording, the search for Trevor McEwen continues. Anyone with information concerning his whereabouts is encouraged to contact the Kaufman County Sheriff's Office immediately.
A small Arizona community has been left speechless and desperate for answers after a beloved local pastor was found dead under highly disturbing and mysterious circumstances last week. The whole thing began at around 7:30 p.m. on April 28th, when Maricopa County Police were called to the New River home of 76-year-old William Schoenman. It's unclear who actually made the call. However, we know what authorities found when they arrived. Upon entering William's property on the 1900 block of Cavalry Road, they found him dead inside his room. Chillingly, he was lying on his bed and his arms were spread out with his hands pinned to the wall. He had suffered significant injuries, and it was later confirmed that his death was a homicide. Residents of the area were absolutely floored by the shocking discovery. According to those that spoke to the media, William, who everyone knew locally as Pastor Bill, was a preacher at the New River Bible Chapel and was a beloved member of the community. He could often be found walking around his neighborhood or working on pickup trucks, and several reporters said they had no idea who would have wanted to do something like this to him. As for police, they're remaining extremely tight-lipped about the whole thing. Aside from confirming that William's death is being investigated as a murder, all they've really said is that they do not believe there is any broader danger to the community. In a statement to one news outlet, they added, quote, "There are specific and unique circumstances to this case that we are not at liberty to discuss to ensure we keep the integrity of the investigation. Understandably, this has done little to reassure residents in the area, some of whom say they've been on edge ever since the discovery." One of William's neighbors told reporters, quote, "I mean, we locked our doors at night. It's just something we're not used to doing. Everybody is just, until we know what's going on, we don't know if it's a family member or we don't know what, who could do this to him." At the time of this recording, the situation is still developing, and Maricopa County Police have asked anyone with possible information about the case to please come forward.
A South Carolina man may want to get his funny bone examined, but first he'll have to get out of jail, following a bizarre incident this week in which he allegedly broke into his ex-girlfriend's house and attacked her, claiming afterwards that the whole thing was a practical joke. The whole thing started shortly before midnight on May 3rd, when the female victim, who has not been identified by name, returned to her home in the city of Charleston. According to reports, the young woman shares a residence with her family, but she lives in a separate apartment connected to the garage. So imagine her surprise when she walked in that night and discovered she wasn't alone. After heading through the door, the woman was allegedly ambushed by a man who was hiding in her shower. The man's face was covered and he was wearing a gray sweatshirt, but he was naked from the waist down. He was also armed with a knife and proceeded to attack her. The female victim would later tell police that upon seeing this person in her home, who she initially believed was a stranger, she thought she was about to be sexually assaulted and killed, especially when she screamed and the man held a knife up to her head and imitated slitting her throat. Moments later, she said the man choked her with one of his hands, applying enough pressure to prevent her from breathing. The woman fought back, and as she did, she started to realize something strange about the man's outfit. The covering he was wearing on his head was a pair of her own bike shorts, as well as a tan baseball cap. After she was able to pull these off, she recognized her attacker as her on-again, off-again boyfriend, 25-year-old Jackson Arnold. It was only at this point, apparently, that Arnold stopped assaulting the victim, but that's when things got even crazier. You see, according to Arnold, the whole thing was just a prank. Yes, that's right. He claimed he broke into his ex's house under the cover of darkness, hid inside her shower with no pants on, and then attacked her with a knife because he thought it would be funny. In his words, he wanted to, quote, lighten the mood because they had been arguing over text earlier that day. Unfortunately for Arnold, his so-called prank didn't end with the belly laughs and backslaps he allegedly intended. Instead, his ex was pretty sure this wasn't a joke at all, and instead ran into the main part of the house and had her family call the police. In case you're wondering, no, there wasn't any kind of prior precedent of Arnold being allowed into his ex's place without her present. According to a police report, he had never lived at the address previously, had never been given a key, and did not have permission to come and go as he pleased. It's currently not known how he got in, though it's suspected he used a side door which had a lock that didn't work correctly. On top of all of this, it's been reported that the 25-year-old parked several hundred feet down the road from the residence so that the female victim would not spot his car when she got home. Arnold was arrested a short time later, though at least by this point it seems he had put some pants on. He's now facing charges including assault and battery, first-degree burglary, and possession of a weapon during a violent crime.
Authorities in Detroit, Michigan say that a local man is facing charges this week after he turned himself in for the brutal murder of his wife, a crime he claimed he only committed because she had been replaced by a demon. According to reports, the whole thing began in the early morning hours of May 4th when the man in question, 68-year-old Timothy Morgan, showed up at the Detroit Police Department's 11th precinct. Upon entering, he said he had a confession to make. He said that he had killed his 67-year-old wife, Catherine Morgan, or rather, something that looked like her. He explained that he actually killed a demon that had been posing as his wife in the living room of their home. After listening to the disturbing admission, officers rushed to the scene on Conley Street, arriving around 4:30 a.m. Sadly, though, it was already too late. Upon making their way inside, they found Catherine unresponsive exactly where Timothy had described. She had multiple stab wounds to her back and head and was pronounced dead shortly thereafter. Investigators now allege that Timothy beat and stabbed his wife with a plastic sword and a pair of pliers. A spokesperson from the district attorney's office said it was one of the worst crimes she'd ever witnessed, saying blood was splattered throughout the home and describing it as, quote, from a horror movie. Timothy Morgan was arrested and has now been charged with first-degree murder. At the time of this recording, he remains in custody.
Representatives from Ohio's Springfield Township Police Department say that what started out as a simple traffic stop got far stranger this week after a woman was pulled over for a violation and she ended up getting busted for something else entirely, thanks to her pet raccoon. According to a Facebook post put out by the department this week, the whole thing started around 7:15 p.m. on May 5th, when an officer conducted the stop in question just off of South Arlington Road. The officer pulled over 55-year-old Victoria Vidal after he realized she had an active warrant out and was driving with a suspended license. The whole thing was pretty standard until after placing Vidal under arrest and putting her in the back of his cruiser, the officer returned to her vehicle. And let's just say, what was waiting for him in the front seat was surprising.
Oh. Hey.
What?
Come here.
Hello?
The raccoon has her pipe.
As what?
Oh my God.
Her meth pipe.
Yes, that's right, a raccoon with a meth pipe. Not just any raccoon, though. Vidal's pet raccoon, whose name is Chewy. In what is perhaps the strangest genesis of probable cause I've ever heard of, the discovery of the meth-smoking trash panda led to a further search of Vidal's vehicle. That's where officers allegedly discovered what they described as a bulk amount of methamphetamine, an undisclosed amount of crack cocaine, and 2 more pipes. As crazy as all of this is, I'd argue that's not even the most bizarre twist in the case. You see, despite Vidal's alleged illegal activities, the one area where she was apparently following the law was in terms of her pet ownership. According to police, she had the proper paperwork for Chewy, and it's legal to own raccoons in the state of Ohio. Now, whether or not she'll get Chewy back, though, is another question. I mean, he looked quite comfortable handling that meth pipe, so I think it's safe to say authorities had some concerns for his well-being. At the time of this recording, Vidal remains in custody on multiple drug charges as well as driving under suspension. She's expected to face more charges in the coming days. It's unclear where Chewy the raccoon currently is, though reports say he was unharmed at the time of the arrest.
The family of a 22-year-old North Carolina college student have been left absolutely devastated this week, following her completely senseless murder during the middle of what is believed to have been a random home invasion. According to reports, 22-year-old Logan Federico was originally from Waxhaw, North Carolina, but was spending the weekend with some friends across the state line in the city of Columbia. She arrived on May 2nd, staying at her friend's rental home on Cypress Street. The first night went exactly as planned. However, it all went wrong sometime the following morning. That's when a complete stranger, 30-year-old Alexander Dickey, allegedly broke into the property to commit a burglary. While inside, he came across Logan sleeping in one of the rooms, and while stealing credit cards for some unknown reason, he fatally shot her. So far, police say they believe the crime was completely random. Based on the evidence collected so far, it appears Dickey drove a stolen vehicle to the neighborhood where Logan was staying and broke into another property beforehand to steal the keys to another vehicle, as well as a firearm. After allegedly murdering Logan and taking those credit cards, he fled in that second stolen vehicle. After responding to the scene around 11 a.m. and finding Logan dead, police quickly launched an investigation. They were able to track Dickey down when he reportedly went on a shopping spree with the stolen credit cards, and he had the vehicle towed to his residence in the town of Gaston after it broke down. Dickey fled his home when police arrived, but was arrested a day later after stealing a third vehicle and driving back to the property. He is now facing numerous charges, including murder, first-degree burglary, possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime, possession of a weapon by a convicted felon, grand larceny, grand larceny of a motor vehicle, and financial transaction card theft. According to police, Dickey is a career criminal who has been involved in at least 40 different criminal and traffic-related cases since 2013. He has prior convictions for offenses including breaking and entering, burglary, grand larceny, strong-arm robbery, possession of a stolen vehicle, and resisting arrest. But this is by no means an exhaustive list. As for the friends and family members of Logan Federico, they say they are now trying to come to terms with her sudden and senseless loss. The 22-year-old was an aspiring teacher and was working 2 jobs while also pursuing her studies. In a statement, her heartbroken father said in part, quote, "My daughter, I cherished. She was a strong, fun-loving individual who did what she wanted to do and was spicy. She loved and adored kids, children of all ages." Before breaking down in tears, he said, quote, "The message I want to send to Dickey, who took my daughter's life, this is from her. You can't kill my spirit. You might be able to kill my body, but you cannot kill my love that my family and friends shared with me."
Authorities in Austin, Texas say that they are in the middle of a desperate search this week after they were recently alerted to a young girl being subjected to nightmarish treatment, only to discover that her sister hadn't been seen in several years. The whole thing began on April 3rd when Austin police were called to a local apartment. They arrived to find a 7-year-old girl who was in a terrible physical state. The young child was emaciated, she was covered in her own bodily waste, and was in serious need of help. She weighed just 29 pounds and had suffered brain damage associated with prolonged starvation. According to the girl's grandmother, who was the one that had contacted police, she had come to the apartment because the 7-year-old's mother, 33-year-old Virginia Marie Gonzalez, had been arrested on a marijuana possession charge. When she got there and began checking on her grandchildren, she realized that the 7-year-old girl had been barricaded inside of a closet. It's now alleged the girl was trapped inside the 3-by-2-foot space for at least a month. During that time, she'd been given just a single corn dog and a half cup of water per day to survive off of. While the girl was taken to a local hospital for treatment, the situation only got more upsetting as officers began to look around the rest of the residence. That's when they discovered that there was plenty of food inside the house, so there was no reason for the young girl to be starving. In fact, the girl's 6 other siblings, who ranged in age from 2 to 14, all appeared to be physically healthy. That being said, police soon learned that none of the children were enrolled in school. However, the most unsettling discovery was still yet to come. You see, as authorities continued to investigate, they realized that one of Virginia Gonzalez's children was unaccounted for. An 8th child, Ava Marie Gonzalez, was nowhere to be found. Ava should have been 9 years old, but it turned out that no one had seen her since late 2017, when she was just 2. Right now, it's not clear how Ava's disappearance went unnoticed for so long. However, what we do know is that Virginia Gonzalez apparently gave conflicting stories to family members concerning Ava's whereabouts over the years. Currently, police say that they are searching for Ava, but at the moment they have no idea where she is or what happened to her. So far, Virginia Gonzalez has been charged with serious bodily injury to a child and remains in custody. However, more charges could be coming. In the meantime, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children have put out an age-progressed photo of Ava, hoping that it could aid in her identification. Anyone with information about the case is encouraged to contact the Austin Police Department immediately. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you'd consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.